Hello lovely people, welcome back to Ever Demystified. In today's video, we'll explore the lives and contributions of some of the most notable Ewe people in modern history, known for their rich cultural heritage and contributions to various fields. From politics to the arts, many Ewe individuals have made remarkable impacts both locally and globally. Our first notable Ewe figure is Sylvano Olympio, former Prime Minister and first President of Togo. Born in Kwando in the Volta region of present-day Ghana on the 6th of September 1902, Sylvano Olympio was the son of Sylvano Olympio, who ran the prominent trading house for the Miller brothers. His grandfather was Francisco Olympio Silvio, who was himself a trader, and his uncle was Octavio Olympio, whose enterprise in Lomé became one of the wealthiest in Togo. He had his basic education at the German Catholic school in Lomé and went on to study economics at the London School of Economics under Harold Lasky. After graduating, Olympio worked with Unilever in both Nigeria and the Gold Coast, now Ghana, becoming the head of Unilever's operations in Togoland in 1929. Having great business acumen, he was promoted to head the operations of Unilever's United Africa Company in 1938 for all of Africa. Olympio desired to see a liberated Togoland and became active in the struggle for independence both domestically and internationally. He petitioned the United Nations Trusteeship Council calling for independence. Despite multiple arrests by French authorities, Olympio persisted. His efforts led to the limitation of French influence in the 1958 elections. He became Prime Minister in 1958 and finally the President of the newly independent Togo in 1961. Sylvano Olympio's tireless efforts have left a lasting legacy. He fought for the independence of Togo and spearheaded the unification of Ireland, which had been split between French and English colonialists. Olympio is remembered as a pivotal figure in Togo's history, whose dedication to freedom and unity continues to inspire. Our next notable Ewe individual is former Prime Minister of Togo, Joseph Kofi. He is also a human rights activist and poet. Joseph Kofi was born in Kwele, Darfur in 1948. Before his election as Prime Minister, he served as the head of the Togolese Bar Association and started the country's first human rights organization, Ligue Togolaise des Droits de l'Homme. He was elected Prime Minister by the Togolese National Conference on the 27th of August 1991, with President Gnassingbé Eyadema's position becoming only ceremonial. Kofi faced numerous challenges, including several attempts to oust him and considerable pressure from Eyadema and his RPT party. He also served as Minister of Defense and later as Minister of State for Foreign Affairs. These days, Kofi has immersed himself in the world of poetry, with 4 collections to his name. Joseph Kofi is a resilient force in Togo's history. His commitment to human rights and democracy, despite immense pressure, has cemented his legacy. His work continues to influence Togo's legal and political landscape, and his poetry enriches the country's cultural heritage. Next, we have Nicéphore Dieudonné Soglo, a Beninois politician who served as Prime Minister of Benin from 1990 to 1991 and as president from 1991 to 1996. Born in Badou in French Togoland on November 29, 1934, Nsuo left for Paris, France, to study law and economics at the University of Paris and École Nationale d'Administration. After receiving his degrees, he returned to Benin and became Inspector of Finance from 1965 to 1967. He was appointed Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs by his cousin, Colonel Christophe Soglo, who overthrew President Surumigan Apiti. Soglo left Benin after the 1972 coup d'etat that brought Mathieu Kérékou to power. He worked with the International Monetary Fund (IMF) and the World Bank. Towards the end of the 1980s, the Kérékou government convened a national conference to transition the country towards multi-party democracy. Soglo was nominated Prime Minister of Benin and assumed office on the 12th of March 1990. He won the first multi-party presidential election with an overwhelming 67.73% of the votes in the runoff against Mathieu Kérékou and was sworn into office on April 4, 1991. Soglo's efforts to revamp Benin's deteriorating economy were significant despite facing opposition. Although he was never able to win subsequent elections, he continued to serve in many major positions, including twice as mayor of Cotonou. His tenure as president and his dedication to economic reforms have left a lasting impact on Benin's development. For notable Ewe number 4, we have Edem Kodjo Edem Kodjo. Born in Sokode, capital of Chaojo Prefecture, on the 23rd of May 1938, Edouard was a Togolese politician and diplomat. He attended the West Africa Secondary School (WAS) in Ghana for his secondary education, whereafter he went to France to further his education. Edem Kodjo completed his studies and very quickly landed a job as an administrator at the Office de Radiodiffusion Télévision Française from November 1964 to June 1967. He returned to Togo and was appointed in July of the same year as Secretary General of the Ministry of Finance by the then President Gnassingbé Eyadema. From 1973 to 1977, he also served as Minister of Finance and as Minister of Foreign Affairs from 1976 to 1978. During the July 18 to 22, 1978 summit of the Organization of African Unity (OAU) in Khartoum, Edem Kodjo was elected Secretary General of the OAU. Towards the tail end of his 5-year tenure, Edem Kodjo came to be notorious for controversially allowing the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic (SADR) to be seated as a member of the OAU on February 28, 1982, to the displeasure of Morocco and other allied African countries. After leaving office as Secretary General of the OAU, Edem left to live in France, where he taught at the Sorbonne and wrote for Jeune Afrique. He returned to Togo in 1991 to form a political party which joined forces with the other opposition parties to contest in the 1994 elections. On April 22, 1994, Edem Kodjo was appointed Prime Minister by Gnassingbé Eyadema. He remained in office until August 20, 1996, having resigned after the RPT won in the elections that were held in 3 constituencies where the previous elections had been cancelled. Following the death of Eyadema His son For Nyasingbe also appointed Edem Kodjo Prime Minister on the 8th of June 2005. He resigned on September 16 the following year, but got appointed as Minister of State to the presidency. Edouard Kodjovi Edem Kodjo's name will forever remain in the annals of history as a man who served his country in almost every capacity, save president. Let's turn our attention now to one Ebe who has made a huge impact on the Ebe music tradition and became one of Togo's national treasures. Bella Bello was a Togolese singer born on Monday, the 1st of January 1945 in Chevier. Born Georgette Adjoavi Bello, her father was a Togolese of Nigerian descent and her mother was of Ghanaian origin. She had her primary and secondary school education in Tsokode and Agwe-Nive, respectively, and went to Abidjan in the Ivory Coast to attend a secretarial school. Her love for music pushed her to study music at École des Beaux-Arts d'Abidjan. She rose to fame in 1966 when she performed at the first World Festival of Negro Arts in Dakar, Senegal, representing her country Togo. Bella Bello, as she was popularly known, now in the limelight, worked with the Paris-based music producer Gérard Aguesson, who desired to present her to the world as the next Miriam Makeba. Having a different style to Makeba's, she pursued her own music and went on to record such wonderful songs as Zelie, Nyeji, O Senye, Rakia, Denigba, and several others. One of her most popular songs, Blewu, has been playing in the background. She kept soaring and before long represented Togo once more in a musical festival in Tunis, opening the doors to other such grand events in Athens and Rio de Janeiro, where she represented Africa. She toured many European countries and became one of the few Africans to ever perform at the Olympia in Paris. Her rise came to an abrupt end in a fatal accident in 1973. Bella Bello's music, her sweet soulful voice, and her great compositions have had a lasting impact on Togolese and African music and culture. Her music also influenced the lives of such singers as Afia Mala, Vicky Bella, and perhaps the greatest of them, Angelique Kidjo. Come with me to Ghana as we explore the lives of some other great sons and daughters of Ebenigba. We start with Frederick Kwesi Apalo, a Ghanaian judge who served as Chief Justice of Ghana from 1977 to 1986 and Chief Justice of Kenya from 1993 to 1995. He is also noted as the only judge to have served in the Ghana Supreme Court through 3 republics. He was born at Uwe, a town near Keta in the Volta region. At the tender age of 7, Fred Kwesi Apalo lost his father and so was provided for by his uncle, a merchant in Kejebi in today's Oti region of Ghana. He had his secondary education at Accra Academy, graduating in 1942. He continued his education at the University College Hall, where he read law. Upon graduation, he was called to the English bar in 1950 at Middle Temple. Apalo returned to Ghana shortly after his studies in England to practice law. He was a very brilliant lawyer, but remained exceptionally humble and quiet. Following the protests that arose against the British colonial administration's imposition of taxes, Apalo represented a section of the defendants in what came to be known as the Angloga riots. After Ghana's independence, he was appointed a High Court judge in 1960 and quickly shone in his work. In 1964, he presided over the trial of 5 persons who had been accused of treason. 3 of these were close associates of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. These were Tawia Adamafio, who was the Minister of Information, Ebenezer Akua-Jay, then Foreign Minister, and Hugh Horatio Kofi Crab, Secretary of the CPP, the ruling party. They were acquitted to the great displeasure of President Nkrumah. Fred Apalo was promoted to the Appellate Court in 1966 and subsequently to the Supreme Court in 1971. In 1977, he was appointed as Chief Justice of Ghana by General Echampong and remained in office till his retirement in 1986 at the age of 65. His tenure was fraught with some challenges and opposition due to his independent-mindedness. In 1993, Kenya's Daniel Arap Moi appointed him as Chief Justice of Kenya, as the nation had a vacancy for the position but couldn't seem to find any candidates for the position. Apalo held this position till 1995. He was also a member of the World Bank Administrative Tribunal. Due to his achievements in service, he was appointed a Companion of the Order of the Volta in 1979. In 1986, he was also elected a Fellow of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences and an Elder of the Golden Heart of Kenya in 1993. This great son of the soil served his country to the best of his ability and helped shape the judicial history of Kenya as well. Next, we set our sights on Kofi Auno. Kofi Auno was born George Kofi Nyidebu Auno Williams on the 13th of March 1935. He was a renowned Ghanaian poet, author, and diplomat. Auno was born in Veta in the Volta region of Ghana. He was the eldest of 10 children and descended from the Auno Williams family of Sierra Leone Creole heritage. Influenced by his grandmother, an Ebedej singer, Auno attended Achimota School and the University of Ghana, graduating in 1960. He later studied at University College London for his master's in 1970 and SUNY at Stonebrook, where he did his PhD, finishing in 1972. Auno's early work includes rediscovery, inspired by African oral poetry. He taught at the University of Cape Coast and worked in various roles, including editing the literary journal Ochiame. His notable works include This Earth, My Brother, in 1971, Night of My Blood, also in 1971, and The House by the Sea, 1978, which chronicles his imprisonment without trial in Ghana. Auno served as Ghana's ambassador to Brazil from 1984 to 1988 and Cuba, and as permanent representative to the United Nations from 1990 to 1994, where he chaired the Committee Against Apartheid. He was also chairman of the Council of State between 2009 and 2013. Auno's life ended tragically during the 2013 terrorist attack at Westgate Shopping Mall in Nairobi. His body was returned to Ghana and was buried in Veta according to his wishes. Auno's poetry and critical works remain influential, celebrating African culture and critiquing colonialism. Some of his selected works are Rediscovery and Other Poems, Night of My Blood, The House by the Sea. He also wrote a couple of novels, This Earth, My Brother, comes The Voyager at Last, written in 1992. Yet non-fiction, The Breast of the Earth. And then also as editor and translator, Guardians of the Sacred Word, Ewe Poetry in 1974. Awuno's legacy endures through his evocative poetry and contributions to African literature and culture. Our next notable Ewe individual is Justice Annie Ruth Giage. Also known as Annie Baita Giage, she was the pioneering Ghanaian lawyer, judge, and women's rights activist. She was the first woman in Ghana and the Commonwealth of Nations to become a judge. She was instrumental in drafting the Declaration on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women and co-founded the organization that evolved into Women's World Banking. Born on October 7, 1918 in Lomé, French Togoland, to Henrietta and Robert Domingo Baita, Annie Baita was one of 8 children, with siblings Christian, Lily, and William surviving to adulthood. Her older brother Christian Baita was an influential academic and Presbyterian minister. Annie grew up in Keta, British Togoland, and attended Achimota College, earning her teacher's certificate in 1937. Baita began her career as a headmistress and teacher at the Evangelical Presbyterian Girls' School from 1940 to 1946, raising funds to rebuild the school after its destruction by the ocean. Restless for further education, she passed the London Matriculation Examination in 1945 and, with the support of her family, enrolled at the London School of Economics in 1946. She received her LLB in 1949 and was called to the bar at Lincoln's Inn in 1950. Returning to the Gold Coast in 1950, Giage established a private practice and led efforts to establish a national YWCA. She married Fred Giage in 1953 and became a magistrate the same year. By 1959, she was a judge for the Circuit Court, and in 1961, a High Court judge. Giage's activism included securing safe accommodations for women visiting Accra, raising funds for a YWCA women's hostel. Giage represented Ghana on the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women from 1962 to 1972, chairing sessions and helping draft the Declaration on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. She became the first female judge of Ghana's Court of Appeal in 1969 and received numerous awards for her humanitarian work. In 1975, Giage founded the Ghana National Council on Women and Development and helped establish Women's World Banking. She served as president of the World Council of Churches from 1975 to 1983 and was involved in anti-apartheid efforts. Giage was president of the Court of Appeal until her retirement in 1983 and continued to influence Ghanaian and international women's rights through her roles in various organizations. Annie Giage died on 12 June 1996 in Accra. Her legacy is commemorated through the Justice Annie Giage Memorial Lectures and a boarding house at Achimota School named in her honor. She was awarded the Grand Medal of Ghana and the Gimbals International Award in 1969. Let's give it up for this woman. Raphael Ernest Grail Amato was born on 12 August 1913 in Keta, Gold Coast, now Volta region of Ghana. He received his early education in Lomé, Togoland, and completed his primary education in Donu, Gold Coast. He attended Infantsipim School, Cape Coast from 1925 to 1928. Fluent in German, French, English, Spanish, Portuguese and his native Ewe, Amato pursued further studies in Germany and France, eventually studying anthropology, literature, and medicine at the Sorbonne. Amato qualified to practice medicine in Edinburgh and worked in Belfast and Derry, Northern Ireland, during the Second World War. He opened a medical practice in Derry and established the Lomeshi Research Center. In 1947, he attended the Nobel Prize ceremonies with Erwin Schrödinger and was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in 1948. Amato was known for his research in anthropology, his work on the abochi drug, and his writings and lectures on scientific and anthropological topics. In 1948, Amato returned to West Africa, focusing on Ewe physical anthropology and establishing a medical clinic in Kumasi. He was also active in politics, advocating for the unification of the Ewe people divided by colonial borders. He opposed Kwame Nkrumah's centrist approach, joining the Ghana Congress Party instead of Kwame Nkrumah's Convention People's Party. In 1953, he addressed the United Nations on the Ewe Land Question, a significant document in African history. Amato's contributions to science and politics were recognized posthumously. A blue plaque in his honor was unveiled in Derry, where he lived and worked. His gravestone in Hamburg bears the inscription, Africa's Greatest Nationalist. Some of his selected publications include Between the Forest and the Sea, 1950, Deep Down in the Black Man's Mind in 1954, which was posthumous, The Golden Age of West African Civilization in 1946, and then finally, Testament to Youth, 1953. Amato's diverse body of work spanned scientific articles, anthropological studies, poetry, and political writings, reflecting his multifaceted contributions to both science and African nationalism. I sing this in honor of the songstress herself, Bella Bello, who blessed us with this beautiful song, Bleu. Bleu, 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 yatapelo, bleu, yatapelo, bleu, 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 yatapelo, bleu, yatapelo, bleu, do do do, me yona solio, bleu, bleu, me yona solio, la to así que me tatajo. Bleu, mausi me miele ya kwenya mia kweminyao, jito si me miele ya kwenya mia kweminyao, mino uto mito beda beno kaka me kwe chepe mayo, mino uto mito beda beno kaka me kwe chepe mayo, bleu yatapelo,